we are superior to the Soviet Union in many, many categories. Technological, agricultural, the list goes on. One thing that we are not superior in is the art of negotiation. I'm interested in your opinion, whether you agree or disagree with me, and it seems to me that we just do not handle that particularly well. We don't have the same long-term objectives that they have and have maintained for many years. I'll give you an example. I think our objectives would be different if the Democrats had won in November. What do you think?
Well, of course, the reason they do better at negotiation is they are not constricted by virtue of a free press. And I don't want to remove that constriction, don't misunderstand me. They don't have to worry about an opposing political party. They don't have to worry about public opinion. They don't have to worry about their allies. You know, so much of what we do is designed so as we don't upset those pigeon-livered creeps in Western Europe who really don't deserve our umbrella. So much of what we do is designed not to get them too nervous. But the Soviet Union never worries about Eastern Bloc countries getting nervous. Do you think for 1 minute they worry about whether Romania is going to get nervous, or Czechoslovakia, or Hungary, or yes, even Poland? They don't worry about whether the Warsaw Pact countries don't like the way they negotiate, because it's all out of Moscow. It's all the iron fist, the iron hand of the Kremlin. So therefore they can operate with a free hand. That's number one. Number two, they can take a very bellicose, very aggressive stance, and they can maintain it for as long as they want. They can move with glacier-like speed and have us just waiting, hopefully for a crumb to drop off their table. So we go in with both hands tied behind our back. It isn't that they're smarter. It isn't that they're craftier. It isn't that they're more skilled. It's that they're playing by a totally different set of rules. As a matter of fact, we're playing by rules, but they're not.
Exactly. You know, I think that much of what happens in this country, we've got sort of a psyche of negotiation. For example, labor negotiations, various type of management, labor negotiations, so on and so forth. And we have, I believe, in this country, an attitude of quote-unquote playing fair, or trying to come to a mutual solution. From everything I've read, and I've tried to read as much as I can, you know, as much as is released to the American public, it seems to me that, you know, the only thing that's negotiated are the things that we have superiority in. For example, you know, we're being criticized for Star Wars, and because the Star Wars systems that we are developing, they already have one, albeit primitive, but you know, they're very concerned that we're going to wake up. And things like this, for example, what's made me think about the thing in Geneva is, you know, I have a pretty good respect for the current administration, but I'm wondering, are we going to be facing the same thing where we're going to be going in, you know, playing by rules, and they're going to be going in saying, what's mine is mine, what's yours is negotiated?
Well, don't forget, Margaret Thatcher has already announced that she's going to meet with the president next week, and she's going to tell him to be flexible. Did she say that to Gorbachev? Of course not. So we do go in with both hands tied behind our backs.
Well, let me ask you one last thing then. Why do we go in at all?
Well, we go in at all because if we don't, then the rest of the world says that we're being spoiled sports, that we're being obdurate, that we're really not trying to negotiate. And indeed, it was used in the campaign against the president. They said he didn't even try. George McGovern, who hit a new height in lowness, said, "Isn't it a tragedy that this American president has not met with Andropov and now he's dead?" As though somehow the meeting with Andropov was going to accomplish anything.
Well, yeah, I understand what you're saying. It was like when the American press jumped.
I mean, just to get together for a media event is really meaningless.
Yes.
Now, next month in Geneva, George Shultz is not going to be meeting with smiling Gorbachev. He's going to be meeting with Mr. Niet, the intransigent, the pentultimate Cold Warrior Andrei Gromyko. Do you think Gromyko is going to do anything other than to propagandize? Of course not.
No, he did it in the White House. Why shouldn't he do it there?
Yeah. So they will use it as a forum. Time magazine will again come out with an editorial urging the president to be more flexible. Newsweek will cite any movement, any weakening on our part as maturity. The New York Times will say that if we give in, we are showing that we have that this administration has grown, has become more sophisticated, has become more understanding. This is the incredible mindset that the liberal media has, and unfortunately, the organs of the media that seem to have the most influence are the organs that are very liberal.
And on a statement that you had made before, it seemed like you're making a comparison between Europe in 1938 and the situation in Europe today, dealing in particular with the behavior of the...
Well, I'm not making that comparison in toto, but I'm saying the same mindset, the same proclivity to appease exists today as has in 1938 and at other times.
Yeah, well, I think there's a good reason for their willingness to negotiate openly with the Soviet Union. I think in 1938 there was a vast difference, and there really can be no comparison made because in that time there was no nuclear weapons or any weapons with any amount of destructive capability that these weapons have. In 1938 there was a world situation in which there could be a clear winner in an East-West conflict. Today, there will be no winners.
I want you to go back and read newspapers.
No,
I want you to go back and read newspapers.
You're right-wing. You're full of...
I want you to go back and read newspapers at that time, and you'll see that people weren't that nonchalant about clear winner and clear loser. And although they didn't know anything about nuclear weaponry, they were very concerned with the weaponry that existed at that time.
Yeah, but we know today for a fact...
And they were very concerned over the fact that for the first time in history, cities would be bombed from the air.
Yeah, but there's no nearly... I mean, today there exists tremendous destructive capability.
I'm well aware of that, but what I'm trying to tell you... I'm trying to tell you that in 1938, people thought it was bad then. They didn't go in nonchalantly thinking, well, it'd be a clear winner or a clear loser. They didn't look upon it as an athletic contest.
But today we're looking at the destruction of human civilization as we know it.
Well, no one's saying to forget that.
Yeah, but see, there's a danger, I think, in...
What we're talking about is an arms control negotiation. Now, what do you want to do?
Well, what I'm saying is...
What are you saying? Are you saying that because you're aware of the fact that the nuclear bomb is totally destructive, then we shouldn't negotiate from strength?
No, it's not that. It's just what I object to is your comparison between Germany, and the Soviet Union. There is no comparison. The Soviet...
Well, you're right, because the Soviet Union is a lot more powerful than Germany was.
Well, they certainly are, and we are too.
And they control a lot more people. But make no mistake, their desire to dominate the world is no less.
Yeah, but do you seriously think? I mean, realistically speaking, how could we ever compare the Soviet Union and even entertain the idea that they would actually roll into Western Europe knowing that this could risk their total destruction?
Well, they would roll. Don't ask me. I'm no authority. But those individuals who are authorities are convinced that if they saw a weakening of NATO, if they thought that we would not stand fast, they would roll into Western Europe.
Yeah, but I doubt that very seriously. They wouldn't.
Well, all right. I'll tell you what. You call George Shultz, and you tell him that you want to be on his negotiating team because you doubt that the Soviets would really take advantage of our weakness.
Okay, I just want one more thing.
You know, you tell him that, and tell him that Afghanistan is a myth. Tell him that Hungary is a myth.
Salvador.
Tell him that Czechoslovakia is a myth. Tell him that Poland is a myth.
Those are things. It's very easy to say these things. But
you know, I tell you something. I'll tell you something. People like you are really what's causing our problems today on the world stage.
it's very easy
Because of your mamby-pamby approach to everything, your lack of realism, you would
macho in.
It isn't a question of macho.
Oversimplify.
I can't stand you anymore. I can't stand you. You're a little weasel. Did you hear me? You're a weasel. I'd like to step on you. I can't stand. Would you get off the phone?
Yell like a baby.
Would you get off?
Like a baby.
Would you do me a favor and get off the phone?
Baby, you can just yell and a lot of right-wing garbage.
Would you do me one little favor and get off the phone and never call me again?
Well, did you get your candy tonight?
Would you please clear the phone line?
Candy tonight?
Would you get off the phone?
Candy?
You creep. This guy's going to stay on the phone. Okay, take over the program. Go ahead.
Get your candy.
Go ahead, stay on the program.
Oh, Brad, huh?
Hey, you know what I think I'll do?
I'm not a right-winger.
I'll put you out of your misery. You're making an awful lot of sense, of course. But the fact of the matter is there are people like that, and the Soviet Union knows there are people like that. They heard in the last campaign that weasel who said, "Poors don't vote, people vote." Embrace the nuclear freeze.
Right.
And thank God he was so soundly beaten, because if he had a big following, then the Soviets would say, "Hey, those Amerikanskis are even dumber than we thought." Well, it was just a matter of weeks later that Brezhnev sent the tanks into Prague, and they did a poor Dubček, and they installed this stooge.
Right.
Not Kadar.
Hungary.
Gustav Husak. They installed him. A complete, total stooge.
Yeah.
Oh. And Abavangulate on WABC Talk Radio. Hello.
Hello, Bob?
Yes.
Yes, Bob. This is Frank.
Hello, Frank.
You know, Bob, I've been listening all night to some of this two-legged left-wing putrefaction that's been calling you up and extolling the virtues of the thugs and brigands in Moscow. You know, Bob, as students of history, we can well appreciate that governments that were held under the various fascist leaders of World War II, Franco, Salazar, Mannerheim, and of course the great Benito Mussolini, today these governments are thriving democracies. Yet look at Poland and Eastern Europe. 40 years almost to the day after the end of World War II, they are all held captive by the Red Army. Not one communist government has ever given way to the electoral process, be it from that maggot in Havana or to that two-bit tin horn that's ruling Poland. They are afraid of free elections. And these jerks like that Jaboni from Yugoslavia that called you up that you said should be deported, doesn't he realize that the Soviets are constantly searching for weaknesses in the Western world? Is he not that, as students of recent history, we remember when Jimmy Carter surrendered the American Canal at Panama, and he had said that he had gained the respect of all Latin America? Why, within a few short months, a group of 20th century Caribbean pirates seized power in Nicaragua. Why, after that lunatic with the filthy towel wrapped around his head in Iran seized the American embassy, Moscow sent its legions streaming across the border in Afghanistan. Wherever they saw weakness in America, be it in Angola, in Mozambique, in Cambodia, Moscow has sent its lackeys or its own thugs to subjugate freedom-loving people. And the only defense against those maggots in Havana is a strong America that is on guard.
Frank, I couldn't have put it any better if I tried all week.
Why, thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Frank.
With you and that fellow Frank before, and the one about the UN. Believe me, Frank could not have put it better. But, you know, this type of weasel that you spoke to before, this type of guy, he's a professional victim. We have a lot of these people around. And, you know, the underlying reason for their thinking goes in either one of two directions. Number one, deep down inside, they don't really care who rules. You see, they have no great ambitions in life. They have no dreams, no aspirations. They just want to eat, watch TV, have sex, and sleep. So they don't care if we have communism.
I'm not so sure about the sex part.
Well, the sex part, I think they're the type that like to get whipped. They sound like very submissive type.
Well, the guy's a masochist, there's no doubt about it. Whether it extends to his sexual preference, I don't know.
Well, he tipped himself off, when he claimed that you were very macho. Macho simply means manly, masculine. There's nothing wrong with being macho. And this type, of course, was a more effeminate type. I could probably describe what he looks like. He's very slight and weakling type, and there's a lot of them like that. But they really don't care who rules. This is the underlying factor. They know what we have to do to keep the Russians off our back, but they don't really give a damn. They just as soon have anybody, so they think. Of course, if the Russians took over, it would be a different story. That boob would have to go to work. And I would like to say that these are the people that are really, if there is, God forbid, going to be a war, these are the very people that are going to bring it on, because the Russians don't give a good damn whether we want peace or not. They couldn't care less. If they see that they can drop that bomb and get away with it, they will do it. So these people screaming peace, they're only encouraging them. If they would stand firm in this country, as you've said many times, or implied, if they would stand firm and take the attitude, hey, look, pal, you want to die? So am I. It's okay with me. It would never happen. We'd never have a war. It's disarmament on one side, meaning ours. We are going to have a war, and we're going to have it sure as hell. And these people are bringing on the very war they claim they're trying to avoid. And they are a danger in this country. As I said, they are professional victims.
Another thing, Bob, congratulations, you have a very good show. And I tell you the truth, I can't go to sleep till I hit the word, get Gaddafi.
I hope that you and millions of others feel the same way.
Now, I like how you call Mr. Mondale. If you cannot do it all the time, I will appreciate it.
Well, you're talking about Walter, Fritz, people vote Mondale.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like
who was the vice president under Jimmy Carter.
Yeah, like, in a lot of ways, Russia, Soviet Union, Soviet communism is worse. And anybody who whitewashes it is committing a moral evil. And that weasel, that wimp, that rodent that was on the air before defending them, saying that maybe they're not so bad. Like I said, I came in late. That's what I got the gist of. That's what he was saying. I hope that guy is haunted by the ghosts of everybody that ever got tortured to death and worked to death and tormented to death in that hell called Gulag. And I hope that guy wakes up in the middle of the night screaming with nightmares, because I hope he feels 1/10 of what those people went through. Those people whose tormentors he's defending.
Right, Slim's lid on things for today. For those of you who didn't make it in, hope we get a chance to talk tomorrow. 9 o'clock, we're going to be here with Phil Caruso of the PBA. Until then, this is Bob Grant reminding you, your influence counts. Use it. Get Gaddafi. This section that has you so upset.
Okay, Roosevelt Avenue, 80th and 81st Street. Believe it or not, it's within those 2 blocks. And it's just, they're selling it like...
Well, there's a Walter B. Cook right on the corner of Roosevelt and 81st. Maybe they should all OD. They could put him in that Walter Cook over there.
Yeah.
That's what we need. We need, I'll tell you what we need. We need to get a big supply of uncut stuff out on the street. Mm-hmm. So these skunks, these jerks, will take an uncut dose and OD. Mm-hmm. That would thin the herd, wouldn't it?
Illegal?
Yeah, but that's so hard to get them deported. I'll tell you the best way to get them deported is get an old airplane.
Yeah.
Take off, have the pilot parachute out, and somewhere about 12 miles out in the ocean, the plane would decide to take a bath. You know what? I'm wasting my time when I talk to a lowlife like you. I wish everybody knew the name of your joint so they'd stay away from it.
I'd like to sell you a car.
Yeah, that's the way you'd punish me, huh?
Believe me.
Why,
No, you'd punish me.
You know, you're the reason that car dealers are held in such low esteem. You sound like a sleazy, no-good, scheming, conniving, backstabbing skunk.
Bob?
Yes.
Charlie from Yonkers.
Goombata, ladies and gentlemen, Goombata from Yonkers checking in.
I want to say, 45 minutes to get you.
Well, that's because we're busy here on WABC.
I have to say you're very busy.
Set over that.
Look, Bob, John Kennedy was a practicing Catholic. The man
with deep religious convictions, an intelligent man.
I don't know whether I don't know whether he had deep religious convictions.
He did.
I don't really know that. That was something very private.
He said that he...
Don't believe... Hey, listen, there's no politician who has deep religious convictions.
That's not the...
They all posture as religious.
but that's not the...
If he had deep religious convictions, he wouldn't be committing adultery all the time. Don't give me that garbage.
Bob,
There's a tremendous difference.
I know. Listen, night after night, I hear the most idiotic things. I just can't believe that people are able to survive with what they have in lieu of brains. I can't believe it. This is Bob Grant, reminding you, your influence counts. Use it. Get Gaddafi. Find that the quality of life deteriorates more and more because the quality of the transportation they must use to and from work deteriorates more and more. I mean, even before you get on the subway, you are assaulted with the ugliness of this graffiti, which is all pervasive, which is all too prominent, which is incredibly ugly. You know, someone said once, they were sick and tired of seeing the inevitable four-letter Anglo-Saxon word. They said they were sick and tired of seeing that. They thought it was ugly to see it scribbled all over. Public restrooms, walls, vehicles, trucks, on the street, on the sidewalk. They said, but as repulsive as that inevitable four-letter word, followed by the second person singular, as distressing as that was, it was preferable to seeing the hieroglyphics of the graffitiites. Because in their inability to articulate, in their inability to spell, in their inability to communicate, however grossly, in a common language, they are the 20th century Vandals, the Goths, the Visigoths, the warriors of Attila the Hun, the uncivilized, the uneducated, the unhumanized mutations who live not in a subculture because there is no culture associated with their tertiary existence, but who exist, who dwell in a strange subterranean mode that is a parody of real life. But the most incredible thing of all is how they have won. The most nauseating thing of all is that they have defeated what was once a great city. I cannot believe that the vast majority of citizens in this tri-state area, and you non-New Yorkers, you don't escape. Maybe John Donne would have revised his brilliant For Whom the Bells Toll to make some mention that if a person has to be subjected to the New York subway system, and whether you're in Greenwich or Woodbridge or Hauppauge or Bergen County or Nassau County or Westchester County or wherever you are, you too are affected. Let me say this about those Koreans. They've been getting maligned on a certain radio station here in town, a radio station which is supported by a bunch of malcontents. But I want to say this. Those Koreans come in, they don't look for any welfare. They're not looking for handouts. They don't rob, mug, rape. They don't maraud. They don't terrorize. They work very hard. I don't begrudge anybody who comes in and works hard, Steve. Now, do you want to jump? Listen, I tell you what. I know a fellow by the name of Kung Chong Tang who has a vegetable stand on 8th Avenue and 55th. Now, he will, if you want a job, he will make you his token Caucasian. You want a job selling oranges over there? Tangelos this time of the year. Are you real good at selling Tangelos, Steve?
Can I make a point, please?
You make a point at the top of your head when you talk that way.
No, and he's a rat. He don't care for our government. He's our enemy for life. Now,
You know, Ben, I tell you, the greatest incentive to stay healthy and live a long life is to live long enough to see that bum croak.
That's right.
I look forward to the day that I'm saying on the air, ladies and gentlemen, Fidel Castro has just croaked.
That's right.
Well, essentially, I agree with you, Bruce, of Flushing, but this is just going to be very futile because there's a great deal, but I know you're going to find this hard to believe, but there's a great deal of opposition to being tough with these the vandals, the Visigoths, the marauders, the perpetrators of graffiti. There's a very considerable, limp-wristed, permissive group that thinks it's really something that we should just laugh at. We never had graffiti to the extent that the New York subway has it. There is no place in the history of the world that has been so completely overtaken. As a matter of fact, those very rare, all too rare areas that have not been savaged by graffiti almost seem like an anomaly now. Whenever you see a little square foot that hasn't been obliterated, it's almost strange. It's a shock.
Yeah,
Now, what I resent more than anything else, twofold, Bruce. Maybe I'm repeating myself, but twofold. Number one, the ugliness of it all, the assault on our human sensibilities. And number two, the fact that from the mayor on down, we have surrendered. I mean, you watch. If this comes up when the mayor's here next week, he'll slip and slide. He will, as tough a guy as he is, as outspoken as he is, he'll slip and slide. He has no problem when it comes to the death penalty for murderers. But when it comes to these graffitiites, heretofore, he has seemed very vague. Yes.
Hi, Congressman Robert Torricelli is going to Vietnam. In other words, is he going there to check on the MIAs, or is he going over to bring in more Amerasian children?
In my opinion, he's going for a couple of reasons. Number one, he's going because it's a schnorr. It's a free trip, so why not take advantage of it? Number two, he's a protege of Stephen Solars. He wants to be New Jersey's answer to Stephen Solars, so we'll have two for the price of one, which, as Grandpa Chito Gigante would have said, que bella roba. Number three, I think that what you said is absolutely correct. Robert Torricelli has never impressed me as an individual who in any way, shape, or form was interested in MIAs.
He's an ambitious little...
Well, I don't know about that, but he's never impressed me as being serious about MIAs. And...
well, we don't need any more orphan children coming in here.
You know, but don't discriminate against Robert Torricelli. He's got a right to be a freeloader and junketeer just the same as any other United States congressman.
An important statement that was made by Mr. Peter Wilhelm Botha, who is now the president of the new Constitution. He said to his people that he's not going to he's not going to follow the one-man, one-vote rule. If you follow the one-man, one-vote rule, which is the basis of our system, that government would fall over a couple of days, and you'd have...
Well, that's true. That's true. You're right. But why do we just single out South Africa? We have 47 other nations on the African continent. They don't follow our concept. They don't have one man, one vote.
Okay.
Did you know that?
Yeah, in fact...
Are you aware of that?
That's deplorable, but I'll tell you why South Africa is why we're concerned with that. They're the strong...
I'm not concerned with that. Speak for yourself.
Well, no,
You're concerned with that.
Well, yeah, okay, I'm speaking for myself. South Africa is the preeminent military power on that continent.
Thank God they're on our side. The field and hope to stay alive long enough to make the advertising revenue. As far as the New York Times is concerned, I read it not because I agree with it. I read it precisely to hear the opposite point of view. Maybe it's a little masochism, but every now and then I'll read a Tom Wicker. I'll read a James Reston. I'll read an Anthony Lewis. just to see what the enemy is saying, just to get a better idea of how well the Moscow propaganda is working. Thank you. Well, that slams the lid on things for tonight. Until tomorrow, this is Bob Grant, reminding you, your influence counts. Use it. Get Gaddafi. We're committed by people who murdered before. But let me ask you, why are you so concerned about murderers? Do you like murderers?
Am I concerned about murderers?
Yeah.
No, I'm concerned about the fact that after a murder and after capital punishment, 5 more murders occur for which the person is never caught.
Well, there are many burglaries. There are many burglaries that are committed where the. Hey, wait a minute. You call.
You're changing.
Hey, jerk! You call. You ask me a question. I try to respond, and you keep talking.
No, but you're distorting it.
I'm what?
You're distorting the issue.
I'm distorting it according to your view.
I'm talking about murder.
Well, that's what I thought you were talking about, but apparently you have a problem.
Apparently you don't want to fix...
I sign on the program, you wish me happy holiday, which stamps you as a big fraud. How could you wish a guy a happy holiday? Oh, come on. We both can't talk at the same time. It's impossible. I don't mind differing views, but please, when you ask me a question, let me respond. If you don't, I'll hang up on you.
Greetings. Do you know anything about the erudite game of chess?
Do I know anything about the erudite Democrats?
The erudite game of chess.
Oh, chess? No, chess is a big bore.
What's your opinion on the World Championship?
I have too much spielkes to sit down and play chess. What?
The World Championship's going on.
I couldn't care less. Pal.
What about compared to boxing? Which is better?
Boxing?
Right.
I couldn't care less about boxing either. As a matter of fact, boxing's no sport. It's no sport where the object is to beat each other's brains out, where the object is to render somebody unconscious. That's no sport.
But they say that the stamina that it takes a boxer to use in gym is used up in chess also.
Well, isn't that great? I'll keep that in mind the next time I avoid a chess match and a boxing match on the same day.
And what do you think will be the outcome of the chess testing if the present World Championship still continues?
I guess I'm not getting through to you. You're talking to a guy who couldn't care less. I couldn't care less. And the last thing in the world I want to do as a host of this radio broadcast is to pretend I'm interested in something when I'm not. It would be dishonest of me. It'd be very easy to do. I could pose as being interested, like a game show talk host. They act like they're interested in everybody that comes up there. How could they be interested in those dullards?
I see your opinion.
So the only time I think most people even paid attention to, there are 2 times you pay attention to chess. The average jamoke like me. 2 times. Number 1, when Bobby Fischer was so outrageous. Remember Bobby Fischer, the John McEnroe of chess back in 1972? And the other times is when you're walking down the street and you see these guys who look like they're the alumni group from Sing Sing and Broadway, playing chess. I think it's chess on on Broadway near between 40th and 42nd Street, 41st and 42nd Street. These are the guys that one minute it's One-Eyed Monty, the other minute it's chess. And they stand there, and I see them after I leave the WABC studios. There they are. It's 12:15 in the morning, and they're standing there staring at chessboards. And the only thing that allows them to even enjoy the moment from their weird perspective is they've just sniffed some stuff that looks like baking soda.
I see.
Give my regards to Mr. Karpov.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you, sir. Same to you. On WABC Talk Radio, a very interesting man. Want to talk about chess or boxing or both. Very versatile. Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
I'm Rita from Staten Island.
I beg your pardon?
Rita from Staten Island.
Rita of Staten Island. Okay, Rita.
Oh, is that so funny?
Well, no, it's
I
not.
know you have a terrific sense of humor, but so do I.
What are we doing tonight, Rita? What are we doing? A little wee Dr. Doris or what? What are we doing?
No.
No, what?
Well.
What? Come on. Fess up.
Okay. Number one, I want to know how old you are.
A little belty poo, huh?
No.
A little 3 fingers of corn whiskey, maybe?
No.
Muscatel?
How old are you?
You're out there in Staten Island getting bombed all by yourself?
No.
No. Oh, you got company?
No, I'm all by myself.
Oh, you're getting bombed all by yourself. Oh, okay.
No, I'm not getting bombed. What, do I stand bombed?
Well, Rita, that's why I was chuckling.
Well...
Now tell me.
You chuckle a lot.
So tell me, Rita, you know...
You chuckle at serious things and you chuckle at funny things. You're just a chuckler.
Okay.
Okay, but you still didn't tell me how old are you?
I don't want to give my age.
No, but you know, what I wanted to tell you, Bob...
Yes.
You don't go backwards. All these people call you about playing games on their streets in Brooklyn and wherever.
Yes.
With all the traffic, you can't play games on the streets.
You can't play games on the street.
You don't go backwards.
Well, no, you don't go backwards. You can't play games on the street.
You've got to go forward.
We'll go forward, okay?
And you're afraid to go on New York Street to carry $100 in your wallet, right?
I beg your pardon?
You're afraid to go on a New York Street carrying $100 in your wallet.
Well, there's some streets I'm not, but other streets I never would. Well, first, I wouldn't go there even if I didn't have a dime.
I know.
Rita's having a happy hour here for today. And until tomorrow at 9 o'clock, this is Bob Grant reminding you, your influence counts. Use it. Get Gaddafi.
From the Bronx.
Yes, Frank.
You know, I sit back and listen to you night after night, and on the nights that you talk about the death penalty, frankly, I become nauseated. Your imperious, supercilious, and cavalier manner turns me off. Would you personally pull the switch yourself on each and every one of these people? And if not, then get off the soapbox.
Well, I'm not a paid executioner. That's not my job. I don't have to do anything other than what I'm doing. If I want to voice my opinion on something, that doesn't mean that I have to actually do that.
Would you be
But listen, dummy, since you asked that stupid question...
Would you pull the switch?
Yes, I'd pull the switch. Of course I'd pull the switch.
Baloney.
Well, then why do you ask me such a question if you don't believe the answer?
Because I don't truly believe you'd have...
Look, hey, listen, you talk about supercilious. Why would you ask a question if you're not going to believe the answer?
Because I asked the question in a rhetorical sense. Because
in a rhetorical sense?
You'd ever pull the switch.
I'm sorry you get nauseated. It's too bad someone has you tied and gagged and forces you to listen to this broadcast.
Well, when you're not talking about the death penalty, I enjoy the program.
I see. You must lead a very dull, a very empty life. If this is all you have to do is to listen to the Bob Grant program. Listen, you come down here, I'll punch your nose right down your throat, you creep! The agony and the ecstasy. You are provided with the ecstasy because you hear me for 3 additional hours from 2 to 5 in the afternoon. You provide the ecstasy and I provide the agony. How would an innocent person be arrested for a crime? You know what I think happened to you, Neil? I think you saw too many Perry Mason episodes on television.
As a matter of fact...
Isn't that interesting? On the Perry Mason show, the defendant was always innocent, and the prosecuting attorney, played by the late William Tallman, was always trying to send up the river or put in the chair the wrong guy. And then in the last 2.5 minutes of the show, miraculously, Raymond Burr would produce a witness who could prove that the defendant was really innocent and the chief witness for the prosecution was really the killer.
Bob, I was inspired more by 60 Minutes, the case of Brunel Jeter, than Perry Mason.
But it's interesting that Jeters wasn't executed, was he?
No, but...
Well, then what are you talking about, the wrong guy being executed?
Well...
That's exactly the point. That's exactly the point. It never got that far, did it? But look, this is all academic anyway, Neil. So, I thank you for your call. Guy's going to sit up all night worried about a murderer being executed, and then possibly 12 years later, when that execution is actually carried out, maybe it's going to be revealed that somebody else committed the crime. You're right.
And when I end this conversation, I want to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
I'm glad you slipped that in now in case things turn out to be acrimonious, and then you won't want to wish me a happy...
Oh, I always do. You got problems, and you're not God, and I'm not God, and we can't be perfect.
No, you can't be. I guess I come about as close as you can be.
Right.
But...
I agree 100%. I've always been for the death penalty because it's just unbelievable what's going on. Unbelievable. Two questions I just want to ask you. Number one, I hear Governor Cuomo sometimes talking about how he doesn't believe in abortion personally, but he feels that as governor he has no right to impose his views on the population. Is that correct?
He has made that statement many times.
Yeah. So if he feels...
He even went to South Bend, Indiana to make a speech, which was more like a sermon.
Yeah, it's against his religious beliefs, but it's all right for other people.
Right.
Well, why can't he feel that way about capital punishment, even though it's against his beliefs? Why isn't it good for the city or for the state?
Because he's more concerned about the life of a killer than he is about the life of an innocent unborn child.
Well, I can't see that at all.
Well...
Not at all.
You and a lot of other people. But maybe someday the governor, with all his great intellect, will be able to explain it.
I wanted Monday morning, they had an article about a man that raped and sodomized a 3-year-old little girl. Did you read that yesterday?
Yeah, sickening. Absolutely sickening.
And they said that he'll only get about 3 years and he'll be out.
That's right.
Now, shouldn't a man like that be put in a lion's cage?
I don't think the lions would deserve that.
Whatever. A man like that should be out on 3 years walking the streets?
Now, this is exactly why I rail against the lunatics that are in charge of the system. Thank you very much, ma'am.
That was a beautiful program you had on that compassion. I want to ask a question, though. What service do you render to the community by having this continuation of abortion, gun control, death penalty? How do you manage to, what do you swerve? You have Ralph Nader on your other program. You swerve people. But what are you doing with this?
I don't understand your question. What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do?
Huh?
What do you want me to do?
I want you to get both sides of the question.
This is a call-in program.
But the point I'm making to you is that...
Hey, Jack, did you say your name was Jack?
John.
Okay, John, this is a call-in program.
May I say something?
John, wait a minute. Let me say something because you're...
into the service. Because you have no Ralph Nader. You have no representation. What good does it do?
I don't know what Ralph Nader's got to do with anything. I'm Bob Grant. I'm not Ralph Nader.
Ralph Nader can influence Washington. You can't.
Ralph Nader was... Hey, Dopey, listen to this. Ralph Nader wanted me to use the influence of this broadcast to try to...
Right, that's right. I understand.
To try to roll back... So Ralph Nader... Hey! Listen. Look, do you want me to hang up on you, or do you want to have a conversation? The callers determine what we talk about.
I don't think so,
I'm telling you, I'm in a position to know this a heck of a lot better than you. That's number one.
I disagree.
Okay, so you disagree. And he hung up. Either that or the attendant in charge of his case took the phone out of his hand and said, now, John, you're going to be tired, and it's drafty, and we'll have to get you back to your ward. He may be in a locked ward somewhere, and you know how those things are. Until Sunday at 2 in the afternoon. Really? This is Bob Grant reminding you, your influence counts. Use it. Get happy.
Hello, my name is Ruth.
Yes.
68 years old.
Did the producer tell you to give your age?
I'm giving you my...
No, why?
My purpose is in my conversation.
May I have your Social Security number, too?
05909.
No, don't give your Social... Don't be so dumb, for heaven's sake.
Arming themselves to walk the streets to protect themselves. You remember the sound? That's my 45. Now, here's another sound I have here. This is the sound of my plant knife. See? I walk the streets with the plant knife painted black, Bob. This way, no liberal who sees me throw it after I shoot the baboon can say they saw the plant knife painted black. This guy might have been taking lessons from me. If you remember, I said the proper thing to do when being held up is never to go for your weapon when the guy has the first drop on you. Instead, you got to be an actor. I said, now isn't that something? I'm nervous tonight.
Yeah, you're nervous. You know why, Mo? I'll tell you why you're nervous. Because you know you're in the big leagues now. You're talking in the big leagues, Mo. And you know that I didn't believe your story the first time.
Well, Bob...
And you don't want me to unmask you a second time.
I'm never nervous on the street. And...
You're not nervous on the street. You see, your talk, you're fulfilling a fantasy, Mo.
No, I'm not.
A lot of people call Bob Grant on WABC to fulfill a fantasy. And that's what you're doing.
If you give me a chance to say some words, Bob, I have some...
I mean, that cheap sound effect of your 45. What are you doing, playing Russian roulette?
No, I just...
Push, pull, click, click.
I just came in the house, Bob.
Where's the missus? I thought you said she had a gun, too.
Yes, that's right, and she's in bed listening to the radio.
And do you two make love with your guns on or off?
Bob, I'd like to say this, really. This gun has saved my life just by showing it.
You just show it. You just walk around and you show it.
The store owners, when they have a gun on them, their mistake is going for their gun. The proper thing to do is go into an act. My spiel is this. This is my recommendation. You say to the guy with the gun or a knife on you, you say, okay, man, be cool. Here's the money. I've been held up before. And then when he turns to go, drop to a crouch, and then get to the side and empty your gun into him. I'm doing this to save lives.
How many times have you done this? I mean, outside of in your Walter Mitty-like dreams.
I'm telling you the truth. It's undebunkable. What I'm telling...
Now, how many times have you actually done this? The answer is none, zilch, zero.
I have never shot anyone, but just by showing my gun and saying...
All right, how many times have you shown the gun?
3 times during the last 15 years. I've had 2 pairs test me, coming towards me. There were 2 out of the street with a butcher knife, and the other guy had his hand on the gun. And I dropped to a crouch, and I say, what are you going to do, monkey? And they say, ours are only fooling, man. Ours are only fooling, and may God strike me dead if I'm lying on the spot. I'm alive today because of just showing this gun.
I thought maybe you were going to call and claim that you were the subway shooter.
No, Bob. And quite truthfully, I have an open plea to this man. You are a fool if you turn yourself in, because as one cop told me, the prison population will get you within 2 days. Our mealy-mouthed, limp-wristed mayor will not tell you this, but it's true. Same with that liberal Cuomo, share the wealth Mario. But
all right, let me hear your 45 again. Let me hear it.
Okay, I got it right here.
It's not loaded.
Here, look. Okay, I got the clip out, okay?
All right.
Now, Bob, I like you, but now the fact is this. This man, here.
Do you use the Alan Ladd approach, or Randolph Scott, or John Wayne?
No,
What kind of approach do you use?
Well, I'm sorry. I just have to be myself. It's a natural, and...
Oh, you use a natural approach?
Yes.
Very natural.
Anyone.
You drop to one knee...
Well, sister, I love the innocent...
You say, you dirty rat, you? Do you call him a dirty rat?
No, Bob.
No.
I just say, what are you going to do, monkey? And then the usual response is, ours are only kidding, man. Ours are only...
You say, wait a minute. You say usual response. You claim you've done this 3 times in the last 15 years.
Right. And usually the other guy says to the guy with the weapon, he says, no, don't.
And you walk around showing the gun. Like you go to D'Agostino's or something, you're carrying a bag in one hand and a gun in the other as you walk out.
No, all these
sometimes it happens from the streets.
I remember once I had a Tom Mix gun. It was wood. I wonder whatever happened to it. Maybe I ought to go see if I could find it. I'll ask my mother. I'll call her.
Let me ask you this question. Don't you agree that if this guy turns himself in, and I literally pray that he gets away. I'm sorry that I wasn't up there on the street on Chambers Street to give the guy a getaway. And quite truthfully, if it means to save him, I would gladly have him in my house.
Is your wife awake?
Yeah, she's lying in bed.
Get her up. I want to talk to her.
You want to speak to my wife?
I want to talk to her.
Okay, here she is. Hang on.
All right.
He wants to speak to you. Go ahead.
All right, we got to find out about this.
I said say hello to Boss Man.
Hello. Hello.
Hello?
Are you, what's her name?
Yeah. And?
Does he carry that 45 around all the time?
Yeah, 'cause he works very late.
He does? Does he, what does he do when he comes to bed? Does he take the gun to bed with him?
No, I tell him to put it away 'cause we have a baby. You know, Tyler, I don't want him getting it.
He says you have a gun, too. Is that true?
Yeah.
The two of you wear your guns?
I don't wear it.
Oh, where do you keep your gun?
Usually in the pocket 'cause they can steal your pocketbook.
Hey, you haven't used yours, have you?
No, I never had to, thank goodness.
Do you think you could if you had to?
Oh, yeah, if someone went to rape me or something, I had no hesitation on getting him. I even have a friend, she's a woman, she's in her 60s. She told me she carries around a knife from her kitchen because she says she'd rather get done than let them get her.
What do you think of the subway shooter? You think he did the right thing?
Oh, yeah, everybody I know thinks he should get a medal. A lot of people I know spend Christmas Eve congratulating, discussing it and saying this guy should get a medal, he did the right thing. And I think there's too many people that think he did the wrong thing.
Do you have a permit for that gun?
No, I got it out of state.
You don't have a permit? You know you're in serious violation of the law.
I know. I've been wanting to go down, and you had to go down and learn it, how to shoot, and then it's a whole bunch of paperwork.
No, really, you'd better get a permit for that thing. You're gonna get in trouble.
Well, I'd rather get in trouble and still be alive than be dead from someone getting me.
Where'd you grow up?
Brooklyn.
And you feel that this city's just not safe for a civilian, huh?
Well, not much of the world is safe right now, but New York is one of the worst. I have friends overseas. They say when they come to America, they go around New York because they're paranoid to come here.
Yeah. Well, all right, you can get back to bed. I appreciate you getting up and talking to me.
Okay.
But try to get a permit for that gun, will you?
Yeah, thank you. I try.
Okay, good night.
Wait, can you wait a minute? My husband wants you.
All right.
Wants you in a second. Thank you. Have a good night. Have a happy New Year. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bob?
Yeah?
I feel that this man, he's not a vigilante, has caught the mealy mouth.
Yeah, you don't have a permit for that gun, do you?
I know, but I have oh yes I do, from God. I have a license from God to live.
You have wait a minute, you have a license from God?
Right. In my mind, I'll figure of speech in my...
If you get picked up by the cops, well, you live on the west side, what are you, Midtown North?
I'm not going to say. But
You're near 54th. No, wait a minute. As a matter of fact, I know where you are.
Yeah.
You're on 47th and 46th, between 9th and 10th.
I'm not saying where I am.
Yeah. I'm focusing in on you.
But I have a question for you. Bob, don't you think I and other decent citizens, those who sympathize with the innocent, have a moral right to protect themselves?
Yes.
Well, then, okay.
Yep. You do have a moral right to protect yourselves. However, you have to... If you're in violation of the laws...
What law? That's a law. That's a wacko law.
Well, I tell you, look...
About that law.
Then get the law changed. But just remember, you got to pay the consequences. If you get picked up with that gun, you or your missus...
Out of it. You want to know how I get out of a gun rap?
How did you get out of a gun rap?
Very easy. Here's how friends of mine beat the rap. And it's so simple. Thank God I have a chance to tell the decent citizens out there who are carrying guns illegally. And it's important to inculcate this in case you get interrogated by the criminal helpers, the cops, who would lock you up if you dare one.
How do you beat the rap? There's 10,000 guys dying to hear the answer.
Right. All you got to do is say that there were two of them, a guy and his girlfriend, and she tried to pistol whip you. She dropped the gun, and you picked it up. She ran away, and then you shot him as he came at you with his knife, with her gun. You just stick by that story, practice it. Just inculcate it, and it works. Because I knew a guy that was in his house one day, and these two baboons, they broke down the door at a Fleabag Hotel. Some guy I know sympathized with. I give him a buck.
I don't know. What do you do for a living?
I can't reveal too much because too many people know me. But now the fact is...
Has anybody ever told you that you're strange?
Strange for wanting to survive?
No, I mean, yeah, look, I survive. I don't have a license to carry a gun from God.
But, well, when I say that, what I mean is everyone has a moral right to defend themselves. That's what I mean.
Listen, I'm going to give somebody else a chance to talk. You've given us a lot to think about.
All right, so long, Bob.
I'll give the mayor your regards. We'll get a chance to talk tomorrow. Then I want to remind you, your influence counts. Use it. Get Gaddafi.
Who's setting the example here? These, corrupt politicians and everything. What kind of example are they setting?
Well, they don't set examples. You know why? Because they want to say the politically expedient thing. The gentleman who was on just ahead of you called it perfectly. He said they just want to say the politically expedient thing. Yeah. But I can't believe that Mario Cuomo, who is a real... in his heart, he's a gutsy, down-to-earth guy. I can't believe that he really believes that garbage that he gave out on this situation.
Well, that he's such a bad guy?
Well, the truth of the matter is, most of the people who placed phone calls on the subject, I'm not talking about to this program, but most of the people supported him. This is what has some politicians concerned. I think this is really what prompted Cuomo to speak out more than the action itself. The governor is concerned because he sees the popular support that this lone vigilante, call him what you will, the support that he has gotten. And this is what worries people like the governor. Well, as I said when I first heard about this a few programs ago, and as I repeated at the outset of today's broadcast, it's too bad he wasn't a better shot. I said it then. I didn't say it loosely. I meant it. And unfortunately, that's the way I feel about it. Good evening.
I refrain from calling you Mr. Grant.
I don't care. What do you think? I'm going to fall out of my chair because you refrain from calling me Mr. Grant?
I tried to...
What is this supposed to do? Is this supposed to destroy me? Dismantle me? Am I supposed to walk around with my head hanging down because you didn't call, because you said I refrain? It's not important what you call me.
Are you still having diarrhea of the mouth? When you retire from diarrhea of the mouth, I will speak. Okay. Now, this thing that you and people such as you have fostered,
Oh, come on. Don't be ridiculous. Fostered.
Don't hang up. Because you're afraid. Every time...
What are you, begging? You sound like you're on your knees all of a sudden. Don't hang up.
I have to get on my knees.
You come on like some real low-class lunk. And then you say, don't hang up. And don't give me this stuff about fostered. What you and people like you have fostered. Don't give me that.
Anus aperture. I have to be careful how I speak to you because I get cut off.
Look, do you have something to contribute?
BC or any...
Do you have something to contribute, or do you just want to attack me?
Yes.
Do you just want to make a personal attack?
For people to attack you. Do you not ask for people to attack you?
Well, is that what you want to do?
Great. I'm the greatest attacker of this person or this thing that's called Grant. I am the greatest.
Oh, dear. All right, go ahead, attack me. Go ahead.
Don't hang up now. I want to get it to you this time because it is a criminal thing that any radio station should put a microphone into a hand of a person like you. I'm a lover of the Constitution of the United States. The greatest thing that was ever written was the Constitution of the United States.
You don't really believe that, because if you did, you wouldn't attack me the way you're attacking me.
But
as long as if I said everything that you agreed with, that'd be peachy keen. Then you would agree with freedom of this press.
A person such as you should not be afforded a microphone. It is criminal that WABC or any other radio station should give you a microphone. You should have a soapbox on 125th Street, Lenox Avenue in December 21st of any year. That is your civil rights or your constitution.
Well, thank you very much for at least allowing me that. That's mighty nice of you.
A microphone in the hand of a person such as you, it's a criminal act that anybody that gives it to you, and that's what I charge any radio station that gives you a...
Well, it's all well and good to make those absurd charges, but of course, what is the basis of the charge?
The basis of it is that you are the reason for the majority of the things that's going on in this...
I'm going to ask for a raise. I didn't know I was that big. Hey, you know what?
You're not that big. Oh, hold it.
Well, I must be pretty big if I'm responsible for all of that.
Sure. If you conclude that...
Yeah, this guy's... I'm going to ask for a raise. I didn't know I was that important. I had all that influence.
Blah, 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 blah.
Here we are on Talk Radio 77. Bob Grant and my friend out there. You want to hear the news, pal? It's coming up at 11 o'clock.
I will wait. I will wait.
Good.
I will wait.
Talk Radio 77, and I mentioned Curtis Sliwa, who is with us here in our WABC studio. And Curtis, do you remember that subway ride you inspired me to take some years ago?
Oh, most definitely. In fact, it's almost appropriate that we discuss it because almost the exact similar situation that the subway gunman ensued, being surrounded by 4 yahoos, thugs, took place even while a whole contingent of guardian angels was on that very same number 2 train, the Beast, except headed into the heartland of Brooklyn, the Brownsville, East New York section, which is far more desperate than the lower tip of Manhattan where the shooting took place. In that scenario, even though we were all about Bob, dressed as any normal business, successful type person in his profession would, with the kinds of attire that would tell you that here's a guy who's obviously moved a bit up the ladder, some jewelry. Nothing overly done, not Liberace style. I mean, he wasn't the turkey on Thanksgiving with the giblets, the gravy, and the stuffing, minding his own business, wondering where in the dickens is Curtis taking me. And slowly but surely, like slime oozing out of the slots, out of the cars, these vermin began to approach and sniff at Bob and check him up and down and visually begin, almost like a calculator in their head, to assess the value of the jacket, of the ring, of the watch. And they actually began to move in on him in the corner. I had to literally take myself physically, put myself right next to Bob, and it was only at that point where they repelled. And even if you looked in their eyes, they were thinking twice. Is it worth going for it? Because here is the lollipop ready to be plucked clean.
Yeah, very, very apt description. And then we got off at the Livonia station. And you said, now look around. You're going to see muggings taking place, drug deals made. And I said, no, they wouldn't do it that brazenly. And you said, yeah, just watch. And I watched, and you were right.
The Mugger's Delight, 125-foot platform, no lights. And there, amongst the stench of the marijuana smell that you could clearly identify with, you saw 8 to 10 guys, some of them playing dice, some of them waiting coldly in the dark crevices, just waiting to pounce. And we're not talking about a middle class or an affluent area. We're talking about a black and Hispanic area of this city, impoverished, crime-infested, black on black crime, Hispanic on Hispanic crime, minority on minority crime, and these people had nowhere to turn. No cops in sight. You didn't see Mayor Koch there signing away copies of his book. Cuomo wasn't patting backs there. In fact, none of them have ever even been there. And Bob looked at this, and Bob, you should have wore rubber underwear that morning, because this whole scenario just totally blew him away. For the whole trip back to the Isle of Manhattan, Bob was literally mumbling himself, I can't believe people go through this every day. You mean they have to travel this abominable beast each and every day to try to eke out a living? What do they do to survive? How can they keep themselves from being savaged over, ripped apart, and picked apart like the buzzards and the jackals would strip a carcass in the middle of a desert? And it was at that point that we began to explain to Bob, that's why we're so important. And if you remember, Bob, in 1979, although we hadn't shot anybody, we hadn't necessarily been accosted, if you took word for word some of the words of our esteemed mayor in these past few days, you can almost quote him paragraph by paragraph, word by word, of how he described our activities. Vigilantes will not tolerate vigilantism in this city as long as I'm mayor. And yet wasn't he later on able and forced to turn 180 degrees? Maybe our fine mayor, who hasn't been in the subway Lord knows when, since the last public appearance shot, or our governor, who, because he's up in Albany now, and there too has become a victim of crime, avoids the subway like the plague. Maybe the next time they call somebody a vigilante or they attack them when maybe they were defending their rights and property like we all ought to be, with a little gumption and not playing out like a bunch of wimps, which really Americans have become, maybe in the future they'll keep that tongue in their mouth, and just like they do for the crooks and the thugs when they get arrested, oh, I'm sorry, we can't comment right now. There's an ongoing police investigation. I wouldn't want to prejudice the case. Not only have they commented on it, they've verbally vigilanteized him by being his judge, jury, and executioner before he's had an opportunity to tell us what went on that day. When we talk about our inception, this is the place. This is the worst of the many cities we've established in. Only Detroit comes anywhere near. But when Ed Koch will speak and say, hey, you know, Bob, you're safer in the subway than you are in the streets. Ed, what city are you mayor of? This is not Pasadena, California. This is not College Station, Texas. This is New York City. The armpit of the cesspool of crime is in the bowels of New York City, the subway. And haven't you noticed, even in the 6 years of our existence, as we've had our ups and downs and battles with political officials, the bums from column A and the bums from column B, that guys like Cuomo and Koch, nobody wants to take responsibility for the subway. We can put the Challenger in space. We can plan on trying to land craft on Pluto and beyond into other solar systems. But not a man, jack woman out there. Not from a Ferraro to a Reagan and all the likes in between. Are they man or woman enough to take on the challenge of cleaning up the sewer system of New York, which is our subway system? I would think that that's probably the greatest challenge in the world today, to run a train on time in the New York City subway system and to get you from place to place safely and in one piece.
More importantly, the subway ride that the average person has to take each and every day to and from work. So the mayor, by definition, is out of touch with the victim.
Oh,
is he not?
So out of touch. I remember speaking to the Public Safety Committee of the City Council, chaired by Fred Samuels. Could you believe it, Bob? There were city councilmen there with their tongues hanging out of their mouth. As I described, the Muggers Express, the Beast, the Zoo Train, places like Livonia Avenue in Brownsville, East New York, parts of Bedford-Stuyvesant, the South Bronx, and the train stations that affix those neighborhoods. And Henry Stern, who runs our mighty park system, gets up and says, I can't believe that, Mr. Sliwa. When I was a young boy, I used to take the number 2 train to New Lots Avenue and then catch a bus to go fishing in Jamaica Bay. Well, I said, Jiminy Cricket, holy, jump up and sit down. If you were to try to take a fishing pole now on the number 2 train, and if you made it to New Lots Avenue in one piece, that fishing pole would probably be where the sun doesn't shine, and you would be crying because you would probably be stripped, none of your personal possessions, emasculated, degraded. It's almost as if these subhumans would have come upon you and urinated upon you, laughing as they went about it, almost as a form of entertainment to themselves, entertaining themselves in your misery, in your discomfort, in your traumatization. Isn't the crime just as great as not just being raped or robbed or savaged, but verbally degraded while your family, your wife and children are there? Hey, you know, maybe the situation is not hopeless. A lot of the old American values seem to have been rekindled by this. Our brainiacs with the parchments from Harvard and Stanford are clearly, completely upset at this prospect of a person taking the law into their own hands. But it's the same brainiacs who day after day, as we're being savaged and beaten and raped, are never coming forward and explaining how these young little thugs who claim that they're ripping us off and beating us and abusing us for economic survival, how they can make excuses for their behavior and yet in the same breath completely condemn without having heard all the facts and not giving this man the benefit of the doubt that he was sitting there minding his own damn business and being sniffed upon by these hound dogs who clearly weren't asking him just for $5 for video games. And I didn't know that that was a necessary ingredient for survival. But as anyone in the ghetto or in the city will tell you, you don't ask for $5. When you come up and you say, give me $5, it's usually $5 or something in case you don't up the $5. And even if you up the $5, there's no guarantee that you're not going to be beaten, savaged over, or abused beyond having any masculinity or femininity left and just wanting to bury your head and totally not trust anybody again in the world. Look in our own backyard. Modern-day goon squads of kids as young as 14, 15, and 16, not only raping and savaging, but looting, burning, destroying our whole generation of young. And we're always poking our nose in someone else's business. Do we have anybody sitting outside of Mayor Koch's house tonight or Mario Cuomo's estate in upstate New York tonight declaring that, hey, you've unjustly accused this guy and berated him when, in fact, you should keep a completely open mind, and if he was right, you, as a representative of the people, ought to be in support of that action and help bring the truth forward. But by casting such negative doubts, casting aspersions on this man's character and behavior, you've already crucified him. As far as you are concerned, this man is guilty, and those 4 little punk thugs are the ones that we should be sympathetic about.
That is... Eddie Canty said he thought his son was arrested a long, long time ago when his son was very young, and obviously didn't really know that his son has been much more active and has come to the attention of the authorities much more often than that. I am sure Mr. Sliwa knows this, but perhaps you don't know that a Manhattan criminal judge ordered the arrest of Troy Canty. He ordered the arrest warrant for Canty after Canty failed to appear in court for arraignment on misdemeanor charges stemming from a December 4th arrest. So you see, Eddie said it was a long, long time ago that his son was arrested. I guess December 4th is a long, long time ago. Canty, unfortunately, as his 3 colleagues survived the gunshot, listed in stable condition at St. Vincent's Hospital, where he has been since the subway shooter shot him and those others on Saturday.
I'd add that in traveling the trains, many times people will confide in me.
Yeah.
I've seen more elderly women, we're talking the age of 50, 60, 70, coming home late at night from seamstress jobs, from maintenance jobs.
Woodshop jobs, yeah.
Definitely. And they'll show me in their little purse, the pearled little .22.
Right.
The little gun that they feel is their only means of security. Now, what does Ed Koch or Mario Cuomo hope to do? Round all those little old ladies up and lock them up and throw away the key because they're bearing illegal handguns? You think they can get a license or a pistol permit? Right. Hell no, you'd have a better chance of having a personal face-to-face meeting with Ayatollah Khomeini or Omar Gaddafi.
Right.
And the fact of the matter is the young punks and hoodlums can get guns quicker than they can get an Eskimo pie in this town, and for probably the same price to boot.
Exactly.
So the fact is, where we have these impersonal politicians decrying handguns and illegal handguns, and why do citizens carry guns? Well, maybe they'd like to travel that slimy subway during the day or the night and go through that torture.
The thing about this MTA system, what do you think it is, Curtis? New Year's Eve, they're telling people to ride the train for nothing. Well, I'm going to go down in a subway on New Year's Eve to get killed?
First of all, there's always been a problem at One Times Square where the ball drops. Right. Every herkimer-jerk in town is down there. They're stealing chains. The tourists are down there. They're taking everything that they can get their hands on. free fare, we're going to have another Diana Ross situation down there. Every Tom, Dick, Harry, Sally, hoodlum in town.
From all the boroughs.
You better believe it. And if this weather holds up the way it is,
They're all going to be out.
I hope they have every police officer in the state of New York in this town on their night, because this place is going to go berserk. How could they possibly do that when most people who could drive wouldn't get on the subway to begin with?
But I got to say this, though. I got to say this. Anybody that goes to Times Square on New Year's Eve is a capone.
It's got to be sick.
Bob, you'd be surprised. We're talking tourists. We're talking suburbanites. We're talking...
But they're capones. If they, what do they want to do?
Bob, they don't know anything. They're used to...
That's why they're capones.
They're used to watching it on network TV. It looks so nice there when they used to watch Lawrence Welk and his dance show and watch the ball drop.
They think they're going to see the ghost of Guy Lombardo.
I think so.
Retired captain from New York. I'm 70 years old. I retired 10 years ago. I carry my gun with my... I got a license to carry the gun. I was going down from 96th Street about 3 weeks ago and on the subway, going down to Penn Station. It left 96th Street, and before it hit Times Square, three men stood. One sat alongside of me. One stood with his back to me. One with his back to me on my right side. I was near the door to get off at Penn Station. So the fellow put his raincoat over my left arm, my left leg, and I thought he was going to play with me. So I put my hand down, and he put this thing with a sharp edge into my stomach. And I didn't look at his face. He said, the fellow on my right says, "Give me your wallet." So I reached in, and I had the holster, gun holster. I was taking the gun out, and he said, he's a cop. And they held the doors, and they all got out of Times Square. But unfortunately, I didn't report it, because the doors stopped and the train started.
Well, Captain, what you described is an everyday occurrence.
I understand that.
Fortunately, you had the weapon to be able to repel them. But you noticed how slickly they did it. Captain, might I ask you, was anyone else really aware of what was going on because of the professional way they did it?
I was aware because he just spoke very low, said, "Give me your wallet." The fellow on the right said, he wasn't looking at me, he had his back to me. "Give me your wallet." And the guy had the thing over my leg over his raincoat.
To point out the bizarre Lewis Carroll type scenario that we are forced to endure in this city, I want to point out one of the reasons that Roy Innes of CORE is so staunchly in favor of an approach very similar to ours in dealing with the subway shooter, why he supports him. Roy Innes caught some thug breaking into his car. He grappled with the thug and got the upper hand, and with the aid of some associates, brought the thug in. But who was it who had to stand trial? The guy breaking into Innes' car? No, Innes himself. Did you know that?
You know, Bob, to me, it compares it to an incident he had. And he held the guy till the police got there. The police were 2 feet away, probably. So this is a joke. Now, you got a governor who says the poor, we in the middle class got to take care of the poor because it's the poor who rape our daughters, our middle class daughters. Now, I never knew a person who is starving rapes people to solve his problem of not having a good meal in his stomach. You might rob, but do you rape? This is ridiculous. And you have the governor talking about why it's going to look into this situation of 5 cops shooting 5 criminals.
Yeah.
How about looking at the situation, how many cops got killed, and how many cops got killed because of lousy politicians like Koch and Cuomo, and they knew they'd be on a carpet.
As a matter of fact, he called the use of lethal weapons by police controversial.
Yeah.
And he said they've inflamed minority tensions across the state. Well, if that's his criterion for taking action, then what he's saying is what the police did, whether they did right or whether they did wrong, is not really his concern, as long as whatever they did produces tensions. Well, you know, not being able to bet at the track could cause tensions, right?
Right, well, that's what I'm having.
In other words, all you got to do is say you're the minority segment of the population and that you're tense, and you'll get his attention.
Well, that's from East New York.
And I went to Thomas Jefferson.
That's now a very tough
Can't walk
school.
in that school. There are more cops in that school than there are students.
That's right.
It's become a hellhole, the whole area.
In fact, remember last year that was the school where the students rebelled when they put in the electron checks because they shake the students down. They found brass knuckles, knives, guns, zip guns, all types of instruments of destruction. And who were the politicians canning up to? The students who were upset that there were metal detectors at the front door.
Politicians.
You seem to be very average, very typical. Do you find that you are being portrayed now by a bunch of psychologists, analysts, sociologists as possibly psychotic, overreactive, championing a killer, in the likes of our own mayor and governor, literally comparing you to many of the same elements that created the Holocaust? How do you feel when you are indicating a genuine feeling that many others share with you, and yet those that are in power, those that make the decisions, are looking upon you as if you yourself were guilty of some crime for feeling these emotions and expressing them? You know what really bothers me most recently? When Ed Koch unleashed the additional police into the system.
But we're on?
No, true, but it's badly in need of these additional cops to patrol both the platforms and the trains.
I don't think they do their job.
No, ma'am, you obviously aren't gonna have an argument for me, but our mutual friend, Bill McKechnie, threatening the city with a restraining order if the mayor were to put additional police into the subway system. Who's running the show here? Do we have union chiefs who only care about the cum gratis for their own union, or is William McKechnie and the Transit Police Union truly concerned about the welfare of the riding public?
This is Bob Grant, thanking you for being with us and reminding you, your influence counts. Use it. Get Gaddafi. When you get your first paycheck next week, or whenever you get it, you say, well, gee, I'm getting less. What happened? Well, you're getting less so that a lot of people can get more on Social Security. You know, when that bumpkin from Florida, the venerable congressman, when he runs around saying, don't tamper with Social Security, what Claude Pepper means is you can tamper with Social Security when you're tampering with the income that is deducted, because they're going to raise it a little more. And they're going to raise it a little more so that people, many of whom didn't even contribute one thin dime, can continue to collect and collect even a greater stipend. So that's why the hackles go up whenever I hear anybody say, you know, the government gives me. The government doesn't give you anything. What the government does is take away from some schlub. And then, with what he has taken away from some schlub, then he gives you. Known as transference of money. Aren't really all that afraid of this gentleman with the blonde hair and spectacles who did the shooting. By the way, if you're listening, would you please take target practice and improve your aim? Now that I've given my daily message to him, I'll get back to you and say that...
I'd like to make a statement about Governor Mario Cuomo, spelled C-O-M-A.
Coma.
It seems whatever the people need and want, this man is unable to see, hear, or feel.
Tony, as long as you mentioned the governor, do you know that he's trying to sneak through an increase in Medicaid? I'm not talking about Medicare. Medicaid. He wants all those chiselers out there. And again, ladies and gentlemen, let me make the distinction. Medicare and Medicaid are two different programs. Medicare goes to our senior citizens, and I think most good Americans are concerned with them. Medicaid has to do with all these leeches and phonies who slip into the United States, and before you know it, they're getting all kinds of welfare. And once they get a welfare card, once they get that, they get a Medicaid card. You know that, didn't you?
Yes, I do, Bob.
But did you know that the governor's trying to sneak through an increase for the Medicaid people?
Yes, I do.
Okay, Tony, that makes two of us.
And that's why I call him Governor Coma, because he doesn't see or feel what the rest of the country is doing.
Why is their destination important anyway?
Well, the point is, if they were on the subway going somewhere, then there might be some credence to the fact that, well, we were going somewhere and we decided to ask this man for $5. Or were they riding the subway to pounce on some victim? Riding up and down, going downtown, then go uptown.
No, they did not have a stated destination. If you mean, were they going to look for a job? No, they wouldn't know work if it fell on them. Speaking of New Year's Day, I understand the mayor of South Philadelphia, Dan Savino, will be serving hot shkadol to all mummers. That's going to be something. That'd be a big event. Everybody's stopping for a hot shkadol there at Mayor Savino's.
What if he wasn't such a good shot? What if, let's say, hypothetically, he had...
What if he was such a good shot
I know.
that they all croaked the way they should have?
I know that's the way you feel. But one thing, let's, just as a hypothesis, what if he had killed an infant or...
What if the Earth were 94 million miles from the sun instead of 93 million?
I know.
What if it were 92 million instead of 93 million?
Okay, so you don't want to touch the hypothetical.
What if Santa Claus had gone down the chimney head first the first time?
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Hopefully, you have a method of ending your program saying "Get Gaddafi." I would recommend that you consider seriously changing that to "Get 4 more."
Well, okay. Thank you for the call, sir.
Thank you very much for hearing me.
Thank you. Wow.
Koch is one of the main reasons I moved from New York City up to Westchester.
I thought the Tower of Jelly might have had more to do with people's departure than Ed Koch. ABC call-out line right now, and Lisa Sliwa is at the other end.
What really irks a lot of people is here is this man being held in police custody tonight on $500,000 bail, while two of these punks are at home, presumably, hopefully not riding the subways again, because if we get our hands on them, they better watch out. But those two punks that attacked him are home scot-free because Goetz is in custody and cannot press charges and have them arrested. This is what to us is so backwards and so totally bizarre. But I think
for a number of years, but the main reason that I'm calling is on behalf of my brother who does take the trains because he works for the post office, Murray Hill Station at dead man hour. He gets off the train to go, or gets on the train to go home at 3 in the morning from the Murray Hill Station.
Why doesn't he get a safe job like wrestling crocodiles in a crocodile tank?
Well, exactly.
Not all the mail, of course, is solicited, and here's an example. Dear Mr. Grant, you are still a pussycat. 3 or 4 weeks ago, you vociferously denounced the Washington politicians. Tonight, you had on Mayor Koch, an ex-Washington politician, and you treated him like a long-lost brother. However, after he left the studio, you did get much bolder. In fact, a caller from Connecticut mentioned something, and you commented, why didn't you think of that when the mayor was present? It seems you have amnesia in the presence of Koch, Cuomo, D'Amato, et al. Do you want to retire and live like a king? Ask your buddy, Art Russ Jr., who he likes in different sporting events, and then bet the opposite. Very truly yours. And can't make out this guy can't write very well, but he lives at 58 Pequannock in Pequannock, New Jersey. Pequannock. He says I'm buttering up Koch. Okay, here's another letter based on the same program. It says, I won't read that opening paragraph, blah, 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 blah. Okay, here comes the good part. What's the matter, Grant? Are you frustrated because you didn't run for mayor when all those people wanted you to? Why were you so hard on Mayor Koch? Why did you cross-examine him? Were you thinking you were still a prosecuting attorney back at Los Angeles County? Well, if that's what you want to do, go back to Los Angeles County and prosecute those two-bit shoplifters. We don't need you to interrogate the mayor with such disrespect. Now, I just read you two different letters based on two different reactions to the same program. And now a third one. This one from New Milford, New Jersey. Your Mayor Koch interview was your most disappointing ever, thanks to both you and the mayor. You requested listeners to ask succinct questions, which, as you yourself stated, they did. Yet you allowed the mayor to go on and on and on and on, dulling our senses with typical platitudes and gobbledygook that all politicians spew and skirting an issue, thus wasting time so fewer listeners could call. Since I couldn't get through, I was hoping that you would ask the questions his vacuous remarks provoked. When he offered comfort to New Yorkers that Miami is the #1 crime city and only 3% of New York crime is committed in subways, why didn't you ask if that was his solution for a safer city? Or did he have a better plan? You alluded to his bonsai brain remark, but after the mayor left, why? Why didn't you confront him with your belated reaction? Do you honestly believe it was coincidental that he rushed over 1,000 cops into the subways after the shooting only because he wanted to make holiday shopping safer and limit potential drunken drivers? How absurd. Yet you didn't challenge it. Why? How could you equate his egg attack with that of someone being attacked with a knife or gun, sometimes both? You let that go by. When you observed that you didn't reach the mayor, or thought you didn't, it boggled my mind. You were able to reach thousands of people sitting beside radios, but you couldn't reach one person sitting beside you in the studio. Strange program, disappointing and frustrating. At times it was not unlike Eric Severide talking to Fred Flintstone, and we couldn't tell who was whom because of the shifting roles. If you were not a professional broadcaster and a superb interviewer, I wouldn't have written this letter. Sincerely, Joe Laziza of New Milford, New Jersey. Yeah, okay. Well, it's better than working for a living, let me tell you. The time that I was the decoy for Curtis Sliwa and some of the Guardian Angels, much to my surprise, I could hear my heart pounding. It was... I was surprised. I said, what the heck? Why am I pumping so much adrenaline into my system? And I looked around at all these menacing, vicious mutants sizing me up, getting ready to make the move. And that's why I can understand Bernard Goetz. And anybody that can understand Bernard Goetz is not one of us, is one of them.